Everyone's aware of Bobby Shmurda's recent high-profile release from prison, but not everyone knows a lot about him, aside from his big singles and all that. He was a big up-and-comer in the game for a long time, although the case he caught definitely threw a roadblock in his way. Just for the sake of some people who don't quite know how upsetting Bobby Shmurda's life has been, we're gonna dive deep into his history so that everyone can understand exactly what he's been through. Shmurda was born Akil John Pollard back in 1994 out in Miami. That being said, everyone knows him from New York, where he formed his clique and started putting out music. He moved there from Florida after his pops went to jail. Once he got there, he also ran into some trouble. He had a few gun charges, which were later dropped in 2014, in addition to some probation violations. Now, when it comes to the actual documents regarding his first arrest, he's described as the gang leader of the dangerous GS9, which is infamous around Kings and Flatbush for committing shootings and engaging in substance trafficking. It's also the name of the label he would belong to for a while. He's also known as one of the pioneers in Brooklyn drill, a region-specific version of modern gangster rap that's all over the world. Most people say it started in Chicago, but it exists now as far as London. While Shmurda had put out remixes of other songs before, he really didn't come into his own and get noticed until he put out his hit single, Hot Shit, which used an instrumental from an earlier Lloyd Banks song. One of the things that really helped catapult the fame of the song was the Shmoney dance, a dance that Bobby did in the video that a bunch of other people picked up, from Vine stars to people like Drake. He also put out Bobby Bitch, which blew up too. His Epic Records debut was supposed to come out in 2016 after the release of his first EP, Shmurda She Wrote. That wasn't in the cards though. Instead, he got caught up on conspiracy charges in addition to weapons possession, which would put a hard stop to any of the music plans he had been working on. Bobby was arrested at the end of 2014, with pretty much the rest of his whole crew. This had followed another arrest shortly beforehand where he was actually released on $10,000 bail instead of having to serve any time. It was clear that the court saw his videos and music as real-life documents of his activities, although they can't be used as evidence in court.
Gentlemen, you gotta move. Everybody gotta move from here.
No, we're just shooting a video.
Sidewalk, please.
We're just shooting a video.
Please,
Okay.
clear the sidewalk.
Okay.
He was accused, along with the rest of GS9, of being in a harmful street gang that would frequently engage in shootings in addition to pushing substances on the streets. While in jail, Bobby was moved from prison to prison for a series of fights, in addition to being moved and charged with more time for trying to have his ex-girlfriend sneak a shiv into prison for him. After he got out on good behavior in February 2021, rapper Quavo from Migos was the one who picked him up, basically rolling out the red carpet for a rapper who had been sorely missed by tons of his fans. Now that we know Bobby Shmurda from the outside, we're gonna dig into exactly what's been going on in his life behind the scenes. It's not all just hit singles and gangs. This runs a lot deeper, as in the case with a lot of rappers who get arrested. There's a reason Bobby is one of the people who caught the biggest charges. It's about sending a message to his listeners and the people around him. In fact, there's a clue in an Instagram post that has since been deleted. Nah, I don't give a f***. I'm doing all these shows. Not getting my money, they got me doing shit every fucking day, so it's hard to keep up with this shit. Then I ain't got nobody to trust, ain't no help in this bitch. I'm ready to hop back in the trap before jail. Hashtag RNS. That's how I feel, folks. It's very strange that he was having these kinds of beefs with his label involving non-payment, especially as such a big star on the come up. There's a lot of speculation that the label itself had a lot to do with Bobby falling out of favor. Someone with the kind of past that Bobby has is really likely to be dropped at the first sign of failure. It's a whole liability to be affiliated with someone who has this kind of history. Just look at where Chief Keef's career went after Love Sosa and I Don't Like. Epic Records posted his first big deal, but if he was still carrying over 20 guns and still pushing dope, how paid can he be? How much work is his label actually putting in? The gangsta archetype is larger than life. If we know too much about Bobby himself, it's bad for business. In fact, that's one of the reasons that Bobby fired his first lawyer. His lawyer's original defense was basically, Bobby's rich. Why would he need to be on all this gang-ish? That's a pretty terrible defense for a number of reasons. Luckily, the second lawyer he got had a much better plan. which was to sue the NYPD for the fact that the original charges in 2014 had been made under weird circumstances, which were maybe even illegal and non-binding. There are also lyrics in his music that point to how rough his life has been, man. His father got locked up in prison, most of his friends have had to kill to survive, and all he's known since he was a kid is gang life. Not only that, but when the life caught up with him, he actually got his charge. He didn't want to take the plea deal. He's since maintained that his attorney basically forced him to do that. But the establishment, the label, wanted him out sooner so he could get back to making music. Or maybe just more viral TikTok dances. Who knows? After being thrown into prison at the peak of his career, he spent a harsh 7 years behind bars at about 22, barely even an adult. First, he went to Rikers Island in New York, which is considered to be one of the worst jails in the country. The conditions are terrible and the guards are notoriously hard to deal with. In fact, the prison is so overcrowded that when Bobby got there, he didn't even have a bed to sleep on. He also sat around forever just trying to get his trial started. While there, he got into a scrap with a group of about 5 other inmates, although no one is really sure exactly what it was about, although people speculated that it was a Blood versus Crips scuffle. Bobby's historically been associated with Crips, and in prison, those bonds are still there. After this happened, he and Rowdy, one of his best friends from GS9, both got put in protective custody. Before all of this went down, what with Bobby's Crip affiliation and all that, fans were worried about his safety, rightfully so, in the same way his family was when he first got to prison, especially since with the fame and all, Bobby would be such a high-profile target. Rumors of his death due to stabbing began to circulate, although they were pretty much immediately proven false. It's not that it couldn't have happened in that environment or anything like that, it just didn't. Fans were pretty much completely capping here. A month after that, in June of 2015, his girlfriend at the time tried to smuggle a knife into prison for Bobby to use, although what it was for isn't exactly known. She was caught, and Bobby was given more time as a result. The time was to be served concurrently with the sentence he already had, so he didn't have to stay in for any longer than was originally planned. That resulted in a total of 3 new charges: weapons possession, prison contraband, and perjury. The perjury comes from the fact that after he had been caught, he was convicted of lying to a grand jury. Eesh. After that, things were pretty chill until 2017, when he got into yet another prison brawl. The first time it happened, there were no real consequences other than maybe preventing him from being paroled early. This time, though, there would be some punishment. He was sentenced to solitary confinement for a month, meaning he had no real contact with anyone else. Rikers Island solitary confinement is also infamously awful, being in a concrete room for 23 hours out of the day. In fact, you can't even see through a hole in the door. Not only that, but he couldn't use his phone. He couldn't go to the commissary either, meaning that he was stuck with the worst food and absolutely nothing that could be considered even slightly luxurious. It's likely that the phone and commissary privileges were gone for longer than he was in solitary. After he got out of solitary, he got moved to Clinton Correctional Facility outside of New York City. There, he would pretty much just spend his time reading, working out, writing, and being on the phone with his loved ones. He also recorded a verse for Stupid by 6ix9ine, which would soon show itself to be a bad move when 6ix9ine built a name for himself as a snitch. He also worked in the commissary while he was in prison, taking stock, sorting items for other inmates, etc. He made about 10 to 25 cents a day, just showing that prison labor is there to exploit. After keeping his nose clean for a long time in prison, likely as a result of the move to Clinton, he was denied parole during a hearing in September of 2020 that didn't go as he had planned. Even though he had been on good behavior for a while, it seemed like the courts thought that his previous charges and the trouble he had gotten into during his earlier days at Rikers Island were enough to justify the time he spent at Clinton after the hearing. After all of the trials, the fights, and the solitary confinement, Bobby's out. He got great treatment when he finally got out of the joint, with pretty much the whole rap game and the fans counting down the days to his release. Now, he's not exactly out of the water yet because of things like probation, but hopefully he stays out of trouble now that he knows what the time is like. We're still all waiting for that next album drop. So what's the most tragic part of this whole situation? Do you guys think that Bobby's sentencing was fair? Let us know down in the comments. Be sure to hit that bell, like, and keep it real. Deuces.